Hey, what's up, guys? We're back with another episode with Sean Yu from Loan Depot, and we're gonna execute on the most asked questions when it comes to do's and don'ts about buying in today's market.
There's a lot of uncertainty out there, Carlos. What are the top 3 do's that you would give to a first-time home buyer that's looking to buy a house today?
So the number one is gonna be, if you have a full-time job and file taxes, you need to fill out your loan application as soon as you can, because outside of that, me or the lender can't really answer any questions because we don't know what your situation looks like, right? That is number one. Number two is basically gonna be somebody that's already pre-approved and is waiting for the perfect house to hit the market for them to submit an offer.
We hear that so many times.
Because I've been working with a few clients that we've been showing them homes for 3-4 months and they don't want to submit any offers because, you know, the kitchen's not big enough or the rooms are too small. And we have the conversation with them though, like, look, the perfect house doesn't exist, right? There's always going to be something that you wish you could change or that you can actually change later on down the road. But your goal should be to get into something that is comfortable in a good area that you can make your own, right? You could always customize it, change the countertops, and that's something that we actually provide for our clients as well, is to connect to our contractors that do that work. So
yeah, and we actually have renovation financing as well, so that's also another option that a lot of people can look at too, is going to a lender and asking them about renovation financing.
Oh, that's pretty cool. Can I ask you a little bit about that? Because I know I'm going to get these questions, so let's ask them while we have them here. What are the terms and qualifications that you need to have?
So it's a slightly different qualification than your normal pre-approval, because when you do a renovation loan, there's different guidelines that have to be followed. So the most commonly used program is with FHA. It's called an FHA 203K. And then with conventional financing, you have Fannie Mae home styles. So a lot of the program is really built upon, if you go into the house, kind of like what you mentioned, and they don't like the kitchen, because a lot of these homes, they haven't been renovated. So you probably have to replace the cabinets, the countertops, probably the flooring, paint. All of that can be financed into the loan. So the way the program works is, let's say you get an offer accepted on the house. We would then need a contractor, a licensed contractor. Key there. A lot of people try to just find, Jimmy from down the street. That's going to give them the homie favor, but it's got to be a licensed contractor. They write up the bid as to what work will be done to the home, and then the appraiser then appraises the home for the future value. So it's a really cool program. It takes about 30 to 45 days to close, but in this market that we're in, it's a great program that to me is underutilized because there's not a lot of inventory, and it makes your job tougher when you can't ask the seller to make any sort of repairs. So in this program, let's just take care of all of it through the loan, instead of the consumer closing on the house and then going to Lowe's or Home Depot and having to take out a credit card and then take out another $20,000 or $30,000 worth of debt, trying to pay off a 20% credit card down the road that more often than not they never do, which then they end up refinancing in a couple of years anyway.
So let me ask you, does that change their interest rate at all or any of the terms?
It does. So the interest rate's a tad higher. Again, it's all dependent upon the type of loan that we're doing, but it's slightly higher. And that's where a lot of consumers typically push back, where they'll say, oh, why, the interest rate's too high. Well, you have to look at it in perspective, because again, if you were to take, let's just say today, 5.5%, is 5.5 better than a 20%, 25% credit card?
No way.
It is, right? You take the 5% all day long. So it's just a matter of perspective. And I think a lot of times the consumers don't necessarily see it that way. They'd rather go and get the credit card after the fact. But a lot of them end up refinancing in a couple of years. So you got to think about, when you refinance, you're going to pay your closing costs all over again. And then you will also have wherever the market rate is at that time.
Let me ask you something. are they gonna be locked in with that loan for like 3 to 5 years, or they can refinance or sell a house whenever?
They can refinance and sell whenever.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
And another thing that I know that home buyers can do is, if they're planning on getting solar, they can find a solar broker that can finance any renovations that they want to do at the house, and they put it into the solar loan.
Yeah, so that's the only thing with that, though. I would just be a little cautious, because that ends up becoming a second mortgage on your house. So where a lot of people are completely unaware, and this actually hurts them, is that, let's just say you owe $300,000 on your first mortgage, okay? And you go out and you get solar and you make some renovation work to your house, and you throw that into a second loan on the house, and let's say it's $100,000. So the combined total now is $400,000. So if your home value is anything less than $400,000, you are upside down on value. And that's where a lot of people walked away from their homes, because they looked at it as being in a negative equity position, that why am I going to keep paying on this house? So they have to be careful, because if you were to try to refinance, unless that second lender is willing to take a second position, you're not going to be able to refi. So you can never get out of the loan if you don't have the equity needed to refinance out of that mortgage. So you got to be a little careful with that. And, not to badmouth the solar guys, but a lot of them don't do a good job of explaining that well to the clients, because we've had clients in that situation where they were completely unaware of what was going on. And yeah, that might be the customer's fault too, but still, I never like to hear that, when we're trying to help someone lower the interest rate or help them with a refi, then, they had no idea what the solar company did.
Yeah. So you guys contact your local solar broker and get more details on that, so you don't jump into something that you're going to regret later. But thank you for clarifying that. I didn't really know the details. I knew it was an option, but it might be something you got to look into deeper. And for the third when you're looking to sell your property, you do not need to do a bunch of upgrades to the home, right? Right now, we're in a seller's market. So depending on what your goal is and how much money you have available to do certain upgrades, that's going to determine how much money you should put into the property, right? Some of the homes are in great shape and you don't have to do anything.
Yeah, you'll get multiple offers.
Yeah, regardless, right? So that's when hiring a good realtor comes into play, so he can determine what are the things that you should fix, because you know that they're going to come in as an appraisal condition, so we want to avoid all the delays with that stuff. So that's when a good realtor that has experience comes into play to save you on time and expenses down the road. Let's hear about on the lending side. I want to know, what are 3 do's that home buyers should be doing?
If you're a first-time home buyer, one of the first things you should do is get really familiar with your credit. Whether you're looking at Credit Karma, Credit Sesame, those websites are great just to get an idea of what's being reported on your credit report. One of the big myths out there is that the credit scores that you see on those websites is what the lender will see. More often than not, when you are looking at those scores, they're probably going to be 50 to 70, 80 points higher than what any mortgage lender will pull. So don't use those websites to gauge where your score is. Use it to keep an eye of what's on your credit report, because there's a lot of times that first-time home buyers have no idea that maybe they had a collection from, when they were younger and doing stupid things.
Well, that actually happened to me when I bought my latest property. I was already in the process of getting pre-approved, and they ran my credit again, and it turns out there was like a hospital bill under my name, and it was under somebody else that had a similar name as me.
You got a pretty common name.
Yeah. Juan Carlos Rodriguez, and they had a hyphenated last name, but we were able to fight it. But it turned out it was right within that time span of when I was trying to buy. That's when it happened, at the worst time. So it's crucial that you keep an eye on your credit.
Yeah, and I think it's one of those things too where a lot of first-time home buyers make the mistake of waiting until the last minute. Their lease is up in 3 or 4 months. They start the process, and then something like that will pop up, and it might take a month or 2 to fight it. And then next thing you know, you don't have enough time to find a house, and you have to extend your lease. So you definitely want to be as proactive as possible and get familiar with your credit report.
Yeah, I think that's a major one too. Waiting for the last few months of your lease to reach out to a lender or a realtor to get started.
Yeah.
And that's crucial. It puts a stress on everything at that time.
Yeah.
And the worst thing is having to renew that lease for another year.
Yep.
And having to wait.
And how much are landlords increasing rent these days? It's insane. I just talked to someone yesterday. It was $800 a month that they were going to increase their rent.
I think it's going to keep going up. And the reason is it's getting a little bit more harder to qualify for a home loan. So people are going to be forced to rent. And there's only like 1,000 properties available to rent right now, single family homes.
Even worse than the buying market.
Yeah. So when there is a high demand and low inventory, what happens? And it's going to be at least for another year, I think.
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
that.
Absolutely. And another if you're a first-time home buyer, I would make sure that you understand where your down payment's coming from. The myth again out there is you have to have 20% down. You don't need 20% down. You can put as little as 3.5% down. But look at your budget. Look at your finances. Get familiar with where you're spending your money, because again, a problem I see that happens quite often is that people aren't budgeting properly for a down payment. And for some of us, you might actually have enough money to buy a house today. And waiting, thinking that I have to have 20% down or I have to have this perfect credit score to buy, you are costing yourself money right now because the prices aren't slowing down. And I have had numerous conversations over the last several years with people that should have purchased, that didn't, and now they're in a worse position. In fact, I was just texting a client today that we had her approved last year. She wanted to wait. This was back in January, and then I just texted her today, and she's like, I'm still wanting to wait. I don't think it's the right time. And she's already paying over $2,000. I think it's like $2,100 a month in rent. And her buying power, she's like, I don't want to find a condo, but and she was essentially forced to pay a higher rent with her landlord. And I was like, you got to look at that number. So get familiar with your finances. Know that you don't need 20% down, and know that there are down payment assistance programs that lenders can help you with. So like Carlos said, get with a lender as soon as you can, get the application done, because that's going to then give you the roadmap on how to cross the finish line on becoming a homeowner. And then last but not least is, I would agree with you on my is get with a lender. A lot of times I know as a buyer, we get consumed by the Zillow and the Redfin and looking at houses. And of course, we all envision ourselves moving in there and it always looks great. And you reach out to a realtor. The realtor's not going to know your finances. The realtor won't know how to get you approved for a loan. So you always want to make sure you get with a good lender first, so that way you can get qualified. And every good lender is going to work with an even better real estate agent. Just like us, for example, if people that have come to us, we send them back over to you because we know you do a good job because you're doing deals. And the thing that you can even ask a lender, ask them for a referral, because they're probably working with numerous realtors and they know actually who's doing business from the real estate side. Because most realtors, I don't even think they do 5 to 6 deals a year. And with this being your most important purchase, in my opinion, you would want someone who's very knowledgeable, who can negotiate for you, and is gonna know how to have your back, especially in today's market. And there's far too many times I see agents on the other end of a deal that, they really don't know what they're doing. And we can't say anything to the client at that point because they picked the realtor, but I always love when, we're able to work together, because I know once you have your hands on the client, like they're in great hands, nothing's going to fall through the cracks.
Exactly. Because sometimes the deal doesn't go how you thought, and you got to get creative. You got to get on the phone with the other side of the deal and try to make something work. And if the other realtor on the other side is not knowledgeable, it's up to you to even educate them on their options that they can do with their client. And I've had to do that before, and I've saved a lot of deals like that.
That's actually a really good point, because it's not only the knowledge that you know, but the fact that does the other side know what they're doing? Because again, it's a seller's market right now, and almost any agent could probably get a listing. They know someone who would probably sell their house, but that doesn't mean that they're good at selling the house. So to your point, being able to sometimes almost in a way coach the other side of the agent to keep the deal together.
Yeah, so, right now, more than ever, I think you need to partner up with the experienced lender and an experienced realtor, because things are changing fast.
Yeah, absolutely.
You have to figure out how to keep somebody in a good deal without it falling apart in the middle of it. I've had some deals fall apart recently, and it was due to different circumstances, but one of them is that we're expanding more into Pahrump. So there's manufactured homes out there, and there's different guidelines for those type of loans, and there's sometimes that there's things at the property that we didn't know until the appraiser goes out there.
Yeah.
And that's something that we're learning very fast, and I think sometimes it takes for you to lose a deal for you to learn and make sure it doesn't happen ever again.
Yep.
But I think more than not, we always help our clients get to where they want to be.
Absolutely. And cross that finish line.
And cross the finish line regardless, right? We're consultants, that's all we are. So when somebody comes and talks to me about their plans, I figure out what their motivation is behind it, what their emotions are behind it. How is it going to make you feel if you do make that purchase, and how is it going to make you feel if you don't and you stay where you're at? What's going to give you more satisfaction, I guess, is what I'm trying to find out. And then we set up a game plan around that. Sometimes clients or people were not in a position to buy, and we let them know, like, hey, right now is not a good time. You should wait, save up more money or raise your credit. And then we set up a game plan for 6 months or a year out to put them in a good position to buy.
Absolutely. So now that we've covered the do's, Carlos, give me 3 don'ts that you would give to a first-time buyer so they don't make the mistakes that we've seen and jeopardize their home purchase.
The one that jumps at me is waiting for the market to crash. How long are you gonna wait for? I mean, give me a timeline. What has the news told you, right? So a lot of people, unfortunately, are just paying attention to the news. The news job is to cause panic, to cause attention. They need people to watch their network, so they're gonna just throw out a bunch of information to panic people, and that's their job, right? But our job on our end is we monitor the numbers. We stay in touch with lenders that are also monitoring the numbers on the lending side, so we can kind of keep an eye on the market, the way it's moving. And so far, the prices have not gone down at all. They're actually going up. So that is one big thing that people are doing, is just waiting for the market to take a dip. And it's unfortunate, some people will not take your advice.
Yeah.
They would just stick to their guns, and some of those people are stuck renting now.
Yeah.
Because they're priced out of the market completely.
And what's even worse is when they get stuck renting and then their rent goes up. Now what do you do? For the average person to pay another $300, $500, $800 a month with inflation and the cost of groceries and gas and everything else that's increasing, that's a significant amount. And most people either are probably working, an hourly job, or they get a salary, so it's not like they can go to work and make an extra $5,000 a month. I mean, what they make's what they make.
Right.
So how do you pay their rent now? That's the part that I get fearful for some of these clients that aren't even trying to look at buying right now.
Right. Because everything is going up except their salaries.
The income, yeah. The income is the same, if not, an increase of 1 or 2%.
Yeah.
That doesn't do anything.
Yeah. So that's unfortunate, but if they want to get to their goal, they're going to have to find somebody they trust in the industry of either a realtor or a lender, and then follow their lead or their advice. You know, if somebody comes to me for advice and they don't trust me, they're not gonna take my advice. You know, so find somebody you trust, that you like already, or that you at least see a good track record, so you can take their advice to point you in the right direction. So number 2, don't wait till you have a big down payment because you want to have a low mortgage payment, right? Some people want to save 20%, which is a common, and I get it. They don't want the mortgage insurance payment. But right now, it's better for you to put down the minimum and buy down some interest points.
Yeah, absolutely. That's
right?
Another strategy.
And that's what I'm advising my clients moving forward right now, because the rates are higher and the mortgages are more expensive. And I don't want them to miss out on another year of waiting and the market goes up another 20%, you know? So that's a huge mistake. So the number 3 don't that I have to say, because a lot of people got discouraged when prices went up and they were like, you know what, I'm gonna wait to buy completely. I'm gonna get my brand new GMC Sierra.
Oh no.
And we're gonna
the
be
car.
good. Yeah, so no cars. Do not get a car, because that puts you out of the game for 5 years, right?
Absolutely.
So just hold off on the brand new car. It's very easy to qualify to buy a car versus buying a home, right?
You can go into any car lot and probably get a car loan these days.
Sure. Yeah. Take your grandma in there and she could get one for you if you have to. So.
Yeah. And I think from the lending standpoint, I would definitely use that as one of my don'ts, as, you know, don't buy a vehicle, because that, for the most part, eats up a lot of your buying power. We've actually had a client, we had her approved in the past, same thing. She wanted to wait, and I think it was about a 6-month wait or a 9-month wait. We called her back and she was like, yeah, I want to get qualified again. And we pulled her credit. She bought a car. She had a $500 car payment, and that cost her about $100,000 in buying power because she chose the vehicle. So number 1 on the lending side as a don't is don't go out and get more debt. And as much as you might be tempted to go buy a new car or finance a new TV, whatever it might be, because Best Buy has a sale, wait until you get the house. Because once you close on the house, as a lender, we don't care what you do with your money. We don't care about your debt to income ratio. Now you can go get the car, get the TV, open up another credit card, do whatever you need to do, but try to stay as disciplined as you can, because that's one mistake that we constantly see people make. In fact, we just had a deal that we were trying to close. The client went out and bought a Porsche 2 days before we closed. We're having to restructure the entire file to see if this guy can qualify. He may have to pay off some debt, but you know, I think we get a little excited when we want to go buy stuff. So try to be disciplined before you go do that.
That's right. Sean, let me pick your brain a little bit, because I know right now there's a lot of moving parts in the industry. I heard that interest rates were going to be up at 7% by the end of this year. And today I actually heard from a lender that came into our office that was talking to somebody that works at Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. They're talking about dropping the interest rate 0.5% by June. So what is going on?
I think there's a lot of volatility in the market right now. It's funny, because if you go and you actually look at some of the predictions that the Mortgage Bankers Association and even Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac make every year as far as where they think interest rates go, they're usually almost always wrong. Everyone has an opinion as to where they think their rates are going to go. I think it's really important for the first-time home buyer to just look at the market today. What do we have to deal with today? Because even if you were to say, and someone predicted that rates are going to drop, let's say 1% in the next 90 days, what happens if it doesn't? There's so many moving parts, like you mentioned, that go on in the stock market with Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac selling off some of their portfolio and all this other stuff that goes on in these bonds and these coupons that get sold that not a lot of people are aware of, that are influencing what's happening in the market. But then to the consumer, you hear that and now you wait. But what happens if that person's wrong? And let's say rates actually went up 1%. So instead of you being able to lock in today and call it, let's say 5, now you're at 6. What if you get sticker shock and now you don't buy? Now you're stuck in your rent, being a renter for another year. And to your point, what if prices go up another 10, 20%? The average home in Vegas is what, $450,000? So 20% is another $90,000. You're talking over $500,000. That mortgage payment's almost $3,000 a month.
Yeah. And then your rent's going up too.
You're stuck.
Yeah.
So I think it's good to know that information, but unless you really are deep into economics, it's almost, to me, it's almost a moot point. Take it for what it is. Rates today are, anywhere between 5 and 6%. Can you qualify for a home? If yes, does that mortgage payment resemble somewhat what you're paying for rent? If it is, you probably should look at buying. Because if you get into the home today at, let's say, 5 to 6%, and there have been talks about this, that we will have a refinance boom in the next several years. So if you bought today at 5%, and let's say it happens in 2 years or 3 years, rates go back to the 2s. Now you take advantage of that. And you've been in your home, you've locked in your mortgage payment, and you've probably had some appreciation versus renting for the next 3 years, owning absolutely nothing, paying your landlord's mortgage, and then trying to qualify when rates go back down. And now let's rewind the tape to what happened when rates were in the 2s. Were there more or less buyers in the marketplace? Exactly. So your life is not going to be easier if you wait for that to happen. If you can make it happen today, and this is not because we're in the industry, you need to really take a look at that for your own benefit.
People wanted to wait when it was at 2%. They thought I was going to go to 1%.
Yeah, it was insane.
Like, there's never going to be a perfect time where you're going to have a sign from God that's going to shine down on you and say, today's the day you got to buy.
Yeah.
You have to just put yourself in that position, get ready, save some money, talk to a lender, talk to a realtor, and get you out there and start looking at your options.
Absolutely. Yeah. Because even for myself as a lender, when their interest rates dropped, I refinanced my house, but I did it in the moment that I had time to do it. It wasn't like I knew, hey, today is March 17th and I'm going to refinance because today's the best day. No, I did it on whatever day I could get to the application and get going. And hey, the terms that I got was the terms that I got. So to your point, there is no perfect time. There is no perfect house. You have to look at your situation and does it work for you in that given moment? And if it does, great, you can move forward. If not, that's okay. But at least you've looked at your options and you know exactly where you stand. And now it's a matter of bridging the gap of where you are and where you want to be, right? And how do we get there?
And something else that I want my clients to know, the people I've been talking to, is if you're renting, the first 1 or 2 properties you buy are going to be stepping stones to your dream house. You're not going to find your dream house off the bat, and it's okay. You need to be invested in real estate first to take advantage of inflation and ride the wave. Let your property go up in value, sell that one, cash out, buy a better one. Your third one is going to be a nice, beautiful home, ideally what you were picturing in your mind, but you can't get there without investing yourself in real estate and benefiting from the appreciation every year, especially here in Vegas. You know how fast the market is moving here.
Fast.
Why wouldn't you want to be in Vegas? You know what I mean? 24-hour city, entertainment capital of the world.
You got the Raiders. You got, they're talking about bringing, the baseball team here, basketball team.
Yeah. We just had a Canelo fight Saturday.
Yeah.
Huge fight. He lost, but you know what? He took it like a man. Bevo was a good competitor, man. He's a big guy, so I'm looking forward for that rematch, though.
Number 2, from the lending side, some things that you shouldn't do is don't lie on your application and be honest with your lender. And the reason why I say that is because there's so many people that will follow what some of these influencers say on Instagram or anywhere on social media about house hacking and all these things that are more popular these days, that sometimes they're actually giving you bad advice. They're giving you advice that could potentially get you in trouble. So unless you like the color orange, you should probably speak to a real loan officer who does this for a living and it's giving you accurate information, because I've had several conversations with people that have brought things to my attention that is totally illegal. So be honest with your lender, and honestly, your lender should be your best friend, because we're going to look at all of your finances. We're going to look at your income, your tax returns, your credit, things you probably don't even share with your family members. And we only do that so we know how to best structure the deal to get you into being a homeowner, and to make sure that when we send you out shopping for a home, that you can shop confidently knowing that that house is going to get financed. And also your realtor needs to know and have that peace of mind too, because if your realtor doesn't trust your lender, it's going to make his job really difficult in finding you a house.
Yeah. So let me ask you, what was illegal that happened?
One of the things that comes up is the whole occupancy thing. There's some investors that say that they're going to live in the home that end up never moving into the home. And the reason why they do that is because when you purchase a home as a primary residence, the down payment is significantly less than an investor. When you buy it as an investor, you're typically putting down 20 to 30%. And obviously on a primary residence, you can put 3 to 5% down. So you have a lot of guys that are looking at some of these Airbnb type properties and they're putting as little down, and it's truly a rental property. So you got to be a little careful with that.
One of that scenario happened to me, actually. We had a client pre-approved, and she lied on the application. She was put in the forbearance last year, and she was late on over 6 payments last year, but that bank, that mortgage company, told her that it wasn't going to come up on her credit, to not worry about it. So she felt like she didn't have to disclose that to the lender. We got her into a house under contract, EMD, where we're going to do inspections. And when they went to go verify the mortgage stuff, it came back and she was disqualified, denied. The underwriter had denied the file. She was devastated. She was in the middle of doing a cash out refi on her primary house.
Wow.
So she put in all this time and work and effort.
So 2 deals fell apart.
Yeah.
Wow.
So it's so important just to disclose everything to your lender. He's not going to judge you. He's not going to make fun of you. He has to know so he can position you in the best way possible to get you to your goal.
Absolutely. And it's a confidential conversation. The conversations we have with our clients, we don't go run off to the realtor and say, hey, Carlos, we talked to Joe today and, he spent $500 at McDonald's. No, we're just trying to figure out, can we, one, get this deal done? And if we say yes, we know with 100% certainty that we're not going to have any issues on the file. Yeah. And the number 3 thing that I would not do is I wouldn't skip out on the pre-approval. There's 2 terms that get thrown around quite a bit, and sometimes they're used synonymously. So you have a pre-qualification and a pre-approval. And a pre-qualification, the lender goes off of a verbal of anything that you tell them over the phone. So you have some lenders that won't pull your credit. They'll simply ask you, what's your credit score? They'll ask you how much money you made, and they will issue you a letter stating that here's your pre-qual and you can start shopping. A lot of times those deals fall apart, and there's certain banks out there that are notorious for doing it, and lenders that I won't mention names, but you know who they are. And there's some offers that come in that agents won't even look at, right? If they're from certain banks. So you want to make sure that you get pre-approved. You want to let your lender pull your credit. You want to let your lender verify your income, verify your assets to know that you can 100% shop for that house. Don't take shortcuts just because you don't want the lender pulling your credit. If you're serious about buying a home, that's part of the process. Myself being an investor and being in the business, I don't get any shortcuts. If I want to buy a house, I got to pull my credit. So we all go through the same process in order to finance a home. So just know that that's what you have to expect. And if you're not ready, then you're not ready. But don't fight the lender when they have to pull your credit and they start asking you for your pay stubs and bank statements, because we want to make sure that you are serious and that you are going to qualify, because we don't want to send someone shopping to fall out of escrow.
Yeah. And something that I wanted to make very clear is that when I'm advising somebody to buy a home or invest in real estate, it's because I'm doing it as well, right? I would never advise somebody to do something that I wouldn't do. If I felt the market was a little shaky and we were gonna be going into a huge dip, I would never advise anybody to get into real estate or buy anything right now, you know? So I wanna make that very clear, and I want you to be careful who you're taking advice from. You know, are they buying properties too? Are they investors? You know, why are they so confident in the market? You know, how do they know, right? And for myself, I mean, I know because we've been buying properties almost every month, and we're seeing the prices increasing every month, and we just see the benefit of the market and how strong it is.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, so I wanted to make sure that it was clear, because there's a lot of people giving out advice, and it's tough to determine who we should trust, but ask for their track record or some proof of where they're coming from.
Yeah, that's a good point, you know, and ask them, why do they think whatever they're preaching to you? And if they're not an investor themselves, or they're not actively in the market, or they're not actively doing deals, it's really hard to make some of these blanketed statements, you know. And for me and my team, you know, we're licensed in 22 states. I mean, Loan Depot, we're licensed in all 50 states, and we probably do, you know, $300 to $500 million worth of business every year, and we see a lot of transactions. So there's a lot of data that we get every single month that we can then take that information, advise our partners, advise our clients, so that way, hey, this is what we're starting to see. This is some of the trends that that's happening. And that way you guys can make the best decision. You know, we can give you the advice, and hopefully you guys take it for what it is. But, you know, we always have everyone's best interest in mind, so that way you guys make the right decision when it comes to buying or refinancing a home.
Definitely, yeah. And I want you guys to feel comfortable to reach out to us with any questions, right? Like, I'm here as a consultant to weigh out your options. I never try to convince anybody to do anything, right? We just give them their options, and they get to pick what they want to do. You know, so that's why we're here. That's why we make these videos, guys, every week. So stay tuned. We're going to keep them coming. Do you have anything to add?
That's it, man. This was good. You got 3 do's and don'ts from the realtor side and from the lending side. So hopefully you guys enjoyed the video.
All right. And I appreciate you guys watching, and I'll see you on the next one.
We'll see you on the next one.